You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Today we have Cory James. I saw the last name first, first name last. Went back to my old school days, guys.
I'll answer to either.
Right? It's just, and you have two first names. So it's like, thank you. I'm horrible with first names. Why can't it be a weird Mexican last name? Or 10 Mexican last names, you know?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking a bit about himself, introducing him to y'all, and really leaning into the CVOA and what they offer and how we could get involved. Cory, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you. It's been a off and on. I think we pushed the show back a little bit, and I'm just glad we're making it happen. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think we've been trying to do this for about 3 months now. Between our schedules, it's been difficult to just find time to sit down and chat. So thank you for having me. So,
awesome.
So just a little about me. It said it's Cory James. I actually have 3 first names because Cory's my middle name. So it's Robert Cory James. So I'll answer to all 3 of them. All 3 of them at the same time whenever my wife is mad at me. So I've gotten used to that one. But yeah, I am the National Quartermaster for Combat Veterans of America. I am a 3-tour combat vet. I did 1 tour in Iraq, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and got out in 2014 after 7 years on active duty. And I've worked pretty much in manufacturing ever since, except for a brief stint as a complete nutrition franchise owner, which is how I met Brandon, who is the founder of CVOA. So that's kind of how we met, and then how we've kept in touch over the last 10 plus years at this point. So it was really good to make that connection, and then it's proved to be useful here. And as we've both closed down our complete nutrition franchises, unfortunately, and now moved on to another chapter here with combat veterans. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you've spent some time, out in the abouts. How did you get involved into CVOA besides the I want to say the nutrition franchise? How did that end up being kind of your path or direction? Was this a natural calling, or you just kind of fell into it?
Well, I've always wanted to help veterans, and when I got out, I realized that there is a gap of civilian skills versus Army, training, so to speak, and the things that they teach you in the Army is very transferable over to civilian side. But what I've discovered is that some of the things that we learn in the military, I was a logistics officer, so operations, supply chain planning, all of those things. So naturally, right, like getting a logistics job coming out into the civilian world should have been an easy thing. No, because what I found is that there are certifications that civilian employers look for that I didn't have, that I was going to have to pay for. There were just different avenues that I needed to navigate in order to make that happen, that they don't really teach you whenever you're either in the military or you're getting out of the military. So this was always something that I had thought about doing at some point in my life. Maybe when I retired, to go back and give back, help mentor or speak to soldiers as they were getting out, or what their future plans were. This just kind of accelerated a little bit when Brandon reached out, and he was like, "Hey, I went to one of these VSO posts. I was very disappointed in what I saw, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And is anybody interested in helping me do this?" And I was right there. I was like, absolutely. What do you need from me? And then there was a number of us. We've got 8 or 9 people on the command council, all from various backgrounds: Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, active duty, National Guard, Reserve. So we all have a very diverse perspective on the military and getting out of the military, and what those experiences meant for us. So we all know that there is a better way, no matter what side of the coin you're on, that we can make this happen.
That's so amazing, And to kind of focus it more on CVOA, how or what does it provide, and how do people kind of get involved? Is it benefits? Is it education? How do we break down the whole for the simple folk like myself?
Sure. So so CVOA is focused on three core pillars within the veteran community: education being one, benefits, and healthcare access. So we also do a lot of advocacy work. For those of you who may or may not know about the VA rule change that they tried to implement a few months ago, where it was um, the you're cured kind of rule, where like, oh, you're medicated, so we're going to drop your VA rating down because you're fixed. Never mind the fact that you stop taking that medication, you're no longer fixed. But we were instrumental. Huge shout out to Matt, who wrote up a lot of op-eds, did a lot of grunt work on the ground in DC to bring that to light to a lot of veterans. And I think within 24 hours, the VA got 2,000 comments about how detrimental that was going to be, and quickly changed. I think that rule came out like on a Wednesday or Thursday, and by Monday morning, VA was already coming out saying, "Hey, we're going to relook at this. We're going to put this on hold for now and put that back." So those are, and that's just a group of like 8 or 9 of us right now. So as we can continue to grow and get more support, we are really looking forward to how much more we can change what a veteran service organization is and what it can do for the veteran itself.
That's so empowering, right? Because for me, I've had the roughest of goes of it. I'm nonchalant. I don't know the word. It's a French word. I can't afford to give a fuck anymore. That's where I'm at. There's got to be a French word for it. And it's powerful because you're right. You brought up that kind of pain point that a lot of us veterans experience with that decision making. And we're noticing a trend within I want to say the overall Veterans Affairs Administration, not just the VHA, not just the VBA, not just the death and benefits side of it or burial. We're noticing a huge shift in the narrative of who gets what, when, where, and how. And they're no longer working by the rules. They're no longer working off of the rule book. Nobody's going off a CFR code. They're all turning these kind of backroom, I feel, negotiations of how things are going to be interpreted and rolled out to cut costs. And I've seen this as a veteran within the caregiver program since 2013. My wife's my caregiver. Shout out to my wife. Thank you for getting me up today. And seeing this type of, I don't want to call it a snubbing the nose to what our obligation is as a nation to take care of our heroes. It's more of a stab in the back. It would turning the other way is one thing, but actively pursuing and cutting programs and limiting funding, limiting exposure for narrative conversation, policy reform. You're right. You hit it right on the nose. There was 2,000 comments. I think it's the most active CFR anything has been. The PCFC program, when it was open last year, when I was trying to talk to the VA, we had that show booked. They never came on the show, though. That's fine. What I noticed was there was only about 300 to 400, and that was a lot. This is 2,000 comments on a congressional, whatever we want to. I don't know the right word. I know it's CFR. Okay, guys, calm down. But when you guys get involved, how does one share larger issues like the one we're kind of discussing, where the VA wanted to remove benefits because of the utilization of the very modalities that provide some form of care?
So in this particular case, Matt reached out to all of us to, make us aware that this was an issue that the VA was going to be bringing up and making a midnight rule change, so to speak. I think is what they called it in quotations, midnight rule. And just to clarify, I don't even think it was a CFR in this case, because I don't think Congress was involved with this decision at all. I think this was just a group of committee members in the VA who said this is a way we can save some money. And so that was the thing. Matt knows a lot more about it than I do. He is, like I said, he is the advocacy guy in DC, or he was, excuse me. But the way we passed that along is we all voted on it, got a very good consensus of this is how we want to proceed with this. You know, you don't want to be too overly aggressive, right? And you turn off the people that you're trying to, you know, get to listen to you, but you also have to be vocal enough to where people are going to listen to you. So it's a happy medium. Matt did a great job of pushing that out and getting that information out. We post a lot of articles on LinkedIn. That's usually where you can find a lot of the things that we're discussing right now. There's a weekly newsletter comes out every week on the CVOA LinkedIn page. There's posts. We do a lot of posting about different veterans benefits and how to get involved. So that's how we kind of push that out. And then Matt published that on LinkedIn and drew a lot of attention to it. I saw a lot of posts from other veterans on LinkedIn come through that. And it really generated a lot of angst, I think, among the veteran community, because, you know, so many of us, we get used to those benefits, and we kind of take them as sacred. You know, we earn these benefits. We spend a lot of time away from friends and family, and put ourselves in situations that 99% of the American population don't put themselves in. And you know, so to have somebody try to take that away from us, I think was really a bad look for the current VA administration. And I'm glad that they changed course on that. But we have to stay vigilant and make sure that doesn't try to happen again.
I couldn't agree more, right? The vigilance and the engagement, right? The participation of the VA is this extraordinary animal. It's got one of the largest budgets in the government. It's had that routinely. We just put out a investigation that we've been doing for a few months. We found that in the past 30 years, the VA has, either through fraudulence, incompetence, or mismanagement, wasted over $380 billion. And the VAOIG just launched a report that a single individual in charge of the electronic health records was found to manipulate, I think it was up to $16 billion individually. So when we're looking at these catastrophic kind of perspectives where veterans are having their benefits cut, which is a bad word, just like disability has been a bad word for society lately, they go, well, you're 100% disabled, but you can talk. And I'm like, well, hey guys, let's start having some more exchange of words. Okay, let's have this conversation, because going back to the 1930s, when Congress failed to give the bonuses and the veterans lobbied or petitioned on the grass of the White House, and then were ambushed and assaulted by the very other people that they served in the military with. This is this environment, just more so in a political and cyber way. Physically, I love all my bros and sis, right? But on this issue alone, coming from it from two angles, I've noticed this narrative being pushed by larger entities and groups and organizations that have their pockets and wallets aligned with the funneling, that of which, when the privatization of the VA happens, guess who's participating in it? First and foremost, it's these people. Like, there's a lot of them. Not a conspiracy. You can look at all this good stuff. I think more people have it dialed in more than I do. But I bring it up because it's a huge narrative shift from, well, this is everything. Our veterans need everything. It's been like, what, 30 years of this, of us, this, we need to. And in the past year, we've known collectively the escalation of certain fronts and certain positionings within the military, and a complete reduction in outward looking of taking care of what we just kind of buttoned up from the past 20 plus years of the global war on terrorism. I find this fascinating because when we talk about that specific incident, about that ruling that happened during the midnight hours, so to speak, behind closed doors, whatever we want to paint it like, when they behave that way, if we were to behave that way, we would be called what, right? This would, if me and you, Cory, me and you, Matt, we're hanging out, we're like, hey guys, this is what we're going to do because of X, Y, and Z, right? If that was the result, that these many veterans were in terror of what it is that you could do with the policy change in the middle of the night with no say-so, no congressional inquiries, nothing, right? What are we saying? What is the signal, right? This is a signal to the veteran community. You're not what it is we're here for. And the money represents it, the way that it breaks down, the bonuses that it breaks down. I love this subject so much because learning about this reaction the veteran community had, seeing the reaction that the veteran community had, and knowing that yourself, Cory, and Matt, and everybody that's working at CVOA are participating in this big shift of narrative where it's coming back to the actuality of what veterans do. Let's be honest, the VA, you can't get anything or participate unless you have an honorable discharge, or other than honorable with a little bit of a waiver. It's kind of a tricky situation. But we're not exemplifying that. The system doesn't reflect upon the merit that of which that one designation has at its root. And when you have a administration that's bloated with corporate mindsets, or politicians that never practice medicine, this is what we get. Okay, this is what we get. I'll take it on the nose, guys. It's my fault. I didn't stand up earlier enough, even though we've been doing this for 13 plus years. All right, I'll take the hit. Get mad, Joey. You didn't bring Cory on. We couldn't talk about other things, right? What I'm looking at as a veteran that goes through it every day, that has my wife take care of me every day, that handles as a man, the things that I don't even talk about publicly because it feels shameful. It feels painful. I'm a 40-year-old man, and I get it. Right? When you served in the military, how often, and this is a good question for you, how often did you see people going to medical for the things that we should have been going for?
Never. Like it's shunned. Like you don't go to medical, like especially as an officer. Yeah. You don't go to medical. You're supposed to be bulletproof. Like you're never supposed to be hurt, never supposed to be injured. And really I took that mindset up until my first tour in Afghanistan, and through great luck, my B hut, which for those of you who don't know what a B hut is, if you've been so fortunate that you've never had to live in a B hut in Afghanistan, it's a plywood box that is freezing cold in the wintertime, and because there's no insulation, and it's just one big square that's separated out, jumbled up through other plywood walls. But my B hut mate, Chief Wiggins, his wife worked at the VA in Nashville, and he was like, yeah, man, if you've got issues like with your knees, with your back, you got to start going to sick call now and getting that documented. Because when you get out, if you try to say, hey, my knees are jacked, my back's jacked, my shoulder hurts, like all this stuff, the VA is just going to think that you're just trying to get a payday, and which is the furthest from the case, because again, we're told don't go to sick call, but there's no way you could possibly put your body through what the military asks you to put your body through without having those types of just injuries when you get out, unless you're just, you're superhuman. But, here's a 35-pound rucksack, go walk 15 miles and you got to do it in 3 hours or less. Like, you're going to put a beating on your lower back and your knees doing that. And here's a parachute that they used in World War II, and we're going to kick you out of the plane, and you're going to land, like a sack of potatoes, and not expect you to have some ankle and knee and hip injuries or issues later on in life. Like all of those things that as you just from a common sense perspective, people should realize that those are injuries that you're going to sustain, not even if you've served in combat, but just in the daily training of being a Marine, a soldier, an airman, a sailor, however you want to depict it. But those are all, just functions of training your body to be serve in that capacity. And I think that gets lost in a lot of conversations about veterans. And particularly now I see a lot of narratives about, the Washington Post article, for one, about the fraud and things. And don't get me wrong, right? Like when I got out, I had guys coaching me, right? Oh, when you go, tell them this and tell them that. So I know it exists out there that people are, using the system, but that's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're really impacting millions of people simply because there's a few that want to, game the system. And I think the better part is cracking down on the people who are fraudulently gaming the system, not the people who rely on that support, whether it's medication or whether it's that disability, particularly, in your situation, Joey, where your wife is your caretaker, like taking that kind of support away, it's detrimental to veterans all over the nation. And it's really and it's been this shift, and I've noticed it not just now, but over the last, decade or so. We love to say we support the military, and we rah go the military, and but the veteran is like, yeah, you don't count anymore. Yeah, like, we know you were there, but you're not in the uniform any longer, so you're not front and center. You're not a good photo opportunity any longer. So we're gonna kind of push you off to the side, and just kind of hope you go away, and we don't have to deal with you any longer. And one thing about Bernie Sanders, whether you love or hate his politics, one thing he said: if we can afford to spend billions and trillions to send people to war, we can afford to spend billions taking care of them when they come back. So, I mean, that's it in a nutshell, right there.
I agree with you so much, right? And it's a powerful situation because it's overwhelming. You have to compete with billions and millions of dollars worth of enterprise affecting a narrative marketing scheme. You have so many different contracts involved in the VA that this brings in the highest of highest corporate organizations. Okay. We're talking Oracle. We're talking, what is the big one? CACI. We're talking about implementation of different corporations, Northrop Grumman, Booz Allen implementing an AI program that also got shut down, right? Or I should say the time frame. And I find this fascinating because you're right. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm like, it's worse than that, because the comparative would be there's not even the size of a baby, right? It would be like a peanut, if that. Like I said, we just did this investigation, and it's super passionate. I just got off the phone with another great gentleman, Jamie, and I told him, hey, this is 0.6% our fault. 0.6. Okay. 99.4% of the fraud, waste, and the 380 billion I was just telling you about, plus the 16 that they just told us about too, that's them. This is where we have to look at what is characteristically true and correspondent to veterans versus VA. When you look at the death record of the VA, and I'm not positioning this to say VA evil, VA bad, but when we have enough statistics to say, if you're not evil and bad, then you're so incompetent, and you're enjoying that face of incompetence to the hyuckles, right? And you're doing this in order to prey on people's naivety. That's it. So it makes you even worse than bad. And this is where me as a combat corpsman, I was a corpsman, FMF corpsman. I was talking to a combat med earlier today, right? We were talking about this whole initiative to care, right? We don't have it. It's not incentivized. There's nothing protecting us. There's no accountability. A part of that investigation we've been doing for The Care We Give, our documentary, we found that the VA pays out nearly $20,000 for any and all issues of which they either have killed somebody or not. In comparison, the national average is $170,000. Okay. It's incentivized to kill us. The less of us, the more money they get, and they keep asking for more. In the past decade, like you brought it up, or I'd say 16, 15 years, we saw a loss of the veteran community that was roughly 20 something million. It has gone down to 18. So in this same time frame, we're losing millions and millions of veterans to aging out. Of course, we're losing thousands and thousands to suicide. This is one of those things that, how are we funding an apparatus that has such a negative marketing ability, right? We're not poster children. I know I'm not a poster child. I've been told this. Okay. The name of the show's created so many bifurcations of religious sects that I was like, hey guys, I'm also a pastor. Calm down. All right. For real. The Devil Doc Talk Show doesn't mean I worship Satan. Calm down. All right. I'm not about this whole conspiracy that people are talking about. Never went to an island. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there, guys. If people want to say I'm Jewish, fine. I don't care. What I can say is it's intriguing that we have such an outward environment that's so hostile when these are the individuals literally charged for taking care of us. And this is where I have to resonate with, right? If we can't get gentlemen like yourself, you luckily met somebody in a FOB or in a base or whatever, COP, whatever they called them out there in Afghanistan. You're by the fucking grace of God, he's your roommate. So you get to learn a lot about his wife and, what the fucking process is. And, oh, dude, you got to go in there, because every Marine I ever shared any space with, or even say everybody, nobody's going to medical, nobody's crying, nobody's, because you're trained. It's conditioning. Your culture is, shut the fuck up, suck it up, buttercup. Okay.
Yep.
It's completely perversely leveraged against us. And I can't get angrier than I am now with this still be maintaining like a decent show to talk about CVOA. But I'm like, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of energy there. And I love it because when you guys work together and you come up with the topic of, how do we confront this narrative? How do we establish and how do we prepare people to fully get engulfed in the political aspects of this? Because you're right. I've been asked to go to DC quite a few times. I can't, okay, because I understood and they told me about these programs. They go, P.S. if you come out with us, there's a special program for psychological help because it's crazy out there. And I was like, I don't think that me in this condition that I'm in, right, needing my wife and everything else, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to the halls of Congress and petition or advocate for our veteran community as good as I can just by staying home and being quiet some days. You know what I mean? Because you get angry when that thing shook out about the whole back to 10, 15 years of, fraud that they're going to scan records for. If you had a specific rating letter from like an agency external to the VA, but you can't get these letters from your VA providers, even if you see them full time as your primary care physicians. They don't work on these documents. And when you ask them, they tell you it's against their interests. It's remarkable, right, that the very people charged with your care, they receive hundreds of billions of dollars a year. When you ask them, help me apply for these programs, SMC, freaking caregivers, aid and attendants, whatever programs, right? They go, we can't help you do that. But here's 2 pages of resources and links and phone numbers you can call on your own. I'm like, hey, ladies, like, I'm not trying to say the caregiver program's bad, but all they told me and my wife is that they're our cheerleaders. These are the worst cheerleaders ever. And I went to a high school where our football team sucked. Okay. So the cheerleaders weren't great. All right. I loved every one of them. They were sweet girls, but man, they weren't the best. And this is worse than that. And I go, how can I advocate for myself in this sense, whilst being the disabled person? And in a society, I'm not allowed to behave that way because I go to prison, I go to jail, I go to institution, I get shot in my face. This is the reason why I get so, heavy towards presenting people like yourself in your organization, because I know we have to do exactly what the veteran community did earlier this year. I know how it has to happen, and it's so scary. It is so scary. You feel isolated. You still feel like you're a young buck. Like, that's the reason why I know it's used against us. Our frontal cortex, our frontal lobes, not even developed for the most of us on our first deployment, right? 25, 27, they say in the men. And I'm like, okay, we know all this stuff. So what are we doing to get it right? How's some of the ways that CVOA incorporates their messaging, or I should say mission, and how does like somebody like myself or another person going through it go, hey, Cory, look, I don't know what to fucking do. I got all this information. I got these records, bro. And all I know is like, I sound like the guy with the cheeseburgers. I got these cheeseburgers, man, and nobody wants them. And I'm like, yeah. So it's hard. How do we get involved in what's the process to kind of getting some either advocacy or representation or talking points across to you guys?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. So one thing that we're looking at doing, and we're not there yet, I really wish we were. There's so many things that we want to do, but just time and resources is kind of limiting us. But one thing that we want to do with every post that we start in CVOA is have a dedicated veteran service officer at every single post. So Joey, if you want to come in and you want to talk about the caregiver program, we will have somebody there that can walk you through how that happens. Not been in your situation, but Brandon and I were actually talking about the voc rehab and education bill that almost no veteran knows exists unless you happen to know somebody who used it and they heard. It's like a secret word of mouth program that nobody tells you about. I didn't know about this when I got out. Nobody talked about this. What is it? 31, I think is the name of it. The Bill 31 or something, benefits 31, something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, so CVOA, and going back to an earlier point, if the VA fully funded, fully staffed, and fully cared about veterans and what we're doing and what a veteran community looks like, CVOA wouldn't exist. Organizations like Wounded Warrior Program wouldn't exist. All these different, like the VFW and the American Legion would probably exist because they exist as a community for veterans to gather, right? But and no disrespect to those organizations, they have a mission and they do a good job with it. But with us and organizations like Wounded Warrior, where we are actively advocating to help veterans propel themselves forward and fix this narrative of a broken veteran, so to speak, that's, we wouldn't exist. Like there would be no need for us at all if the VA, completed the mission that it's set out to do. And that's the unfortunate side of it. So for anybody who wants to get involved, right, we are advocating to get veteran service officers in every post, or at least in a regional post. And not only that, but with the new website we set up called Rate Your VSO, and it's on the website at combatvets.org, combatvetsofamerica.org, excuse me. You can go on there, and if we're not, if that veteran service officer isn't living up to what you need, you can rate that, and we will absolutely fix that. And so full transparency, right? And that's the way we want to operate. If you want to see who we're getting funding from, by all means, you can request it. There is nothing for us to hide, so to speak, and that's how Brandon has really wanted to set it up. We don't want to be these behind closed doors decision makers. We don't. If you are a member of CVOA and you want to see like what we're talking about, you are welcome to do so. We are now set up on Discord. We have groups across all the different states for people to join, and that is being populated more and more every single day. So the movement is there, and it's clear that there is this drive for a community. But I think a lot of the legacy VSOs, because of the aging out, nobody really wants to join them. So this is kind of an opportunity, and just my personal experience, right? I can go to the VFW and you can be a veteran of a foreign war, but you don't know what that war looked like. You just served during that time. And that was a lot of my experience going into VFW posts. Like I would meet these guys and they're Vietnam vets or Korean War vets. Those are slowly falling away too. But it was like, so what was Vietnam like? What was Korea like? I was like, well, I never went. Like I was just in the military during those times. So they qualified to be a veteran of a foreign war. And so even guys like that, it's hard to have a conversation and share those experiences. So that's kind of, I walked away from, I didn't walk away from the VFW, but I kind of left the post. I had to move to another city, and I just never really joined another one because of that experience. And so with Combat Veterans of America, we are trying to build that community of combat vets so that we have a shared experience. And it's not just combat veterans, but that's really what we're advocating for.
The target, right? And that's something that I think we have to aim for. And I understand it's a difficult subject to say our value is because of the failures of this hugely funded problem, but our value is, right? CVOA's value is to connect with those combat veterans that have those shared experiences, because it's very difficult. I've been doing the show for a very long time. I've interviewed so many different people. On top of that, I've served with so many different people. I'm a friendly, my personality is I'm alive. Let's fucking talk. Okay. So when I meet veterans of foreign wars, of things like Vietnam, Korea, right? The silent war, nobody talks about Korea. Vietnam, I already said that. World War II, of course, not World War I. I'm not that old, guys. Come on. But that's one of those things I've noticed that's a profound way to bring up a great talking point here. Our communities are very isolated and compartmentalized. When I was having a conversation with a couple of people in the intelligence spaces, right, I realized that nobody really kind of transcends this compassion or caring in a viable manner where we don't have to have that common specific trend, but the desire to fix a problem, right? And I find that powerful because a lot of the combat vets that I talk about, right, or talk with, share time with, right? We understand the veracity of war. We understand the horrors of something that's incommunicatable. You just can't. It's like talking about I don't know, experiences of religion or faith where you're like, hey, I was like touched, and all of a sudden people are like, no, you're crazy, right? And it's okay. It's okay. But that's where we have to kind of figure out, how do we then bridge those gaps? And I love that, because if we bridge the gap with love and community, where we're having motivation, we're having mission, orientation, or message, much like CVOA does, and bridging that gap for people who feel vulnerable in a very unique experience, which would be combat, direct combat, combat deployments, integrative, whatever specialties, right? And it's such a dynamic thing. And I get really angry about this when men's tap in and be like, hey, women shouldn't be in a combat role. I'm like, do you understand that there's women out there that got more fucking kills than I could even want to think of? And then on top of it, they have all these decorations, intelligence, and this attachment and that. And I'm like, I hate the narratives that women don't deserve or don't belong, but also they're not being recognized as it is already, as this huge part of this mechanism of warfare that has been going on, again, on repeat for the past 30 years. So I find it a powerful point to talk about integrating that conversation, saying, hey, we have to talk, we have to share these relationships, we have to build a community where we go, hey, you may not have done that, door kicker guy, you may have been on the fob, you might have been doing this, dealing with body parts or whatever. That's the one dynamic. And then you have, then there's people that never deployed, they never left their base, they never left the country, they never ... You could say that all day and long, and I love it. But then when I go, what the worst part is? Talking to intelligence officers about foundations that nobody discusses, right? Nobody knows that, there's this foundation for this endearment fund, and this helps people who with the NSA and these specialized intelligence units that aren't like direct active role combat. Some of them are, some of them are not, some of them are different, right? But I found it so disappointing, right? As a community leader, a spokesperson, a voice in the community, I go, you know what, we could be doing a lot better. I know that these people in intelligence know how to communicate in ways that I don't. And I know that these officers like yourself can communicate with enlisted that most people don't. Combat, direct combat. What was combat like? My specialty in combat was logistics as well. So it's like, hey, people don't understand. Like, you can be a badass all you want. When that shit empties, you're like, well, that was nice. Okay, what are we going to do next? I don't know. Fucking, we got a knife. We've got a spoon, legitimate spoon kill, right? And that happened. Literally happened. I go, it's funny, but it's sad that when we come home, we have to have these conversations. It's sad, but it's amazing, because I get to meet gentlemen like yourself. We get to talk, right? We get to decide, hey, this is what our community really needs and wants. And we get to do something about it, right? We get to go, hey, I may not like what's happening, but I don't have to keep not liking it. I could engage and say, stop, right? Knock it off. Don't pass that boat. Yeah, enough. And it's a great day some days, talking about the horrors of failures. But when we talk about it in the sense of this is what we're doing about it, I think CVOA is really on that track. I try to keep up with as much as I possibly can. How do we all the different links and stuff? What are all? Is it just CVOA, Combat Veterans of America?
Yeah, so basically, the website is combatvetsofamerica.org, spelled out just like that. On there, you can sign up, become a member. If you are a combat veteran, we welcome all veterans, like I said, but non-combat veterans don't get voting rights. That's really the only big difference. Combat vets get voting rights whenever we're trying to make a decision or we're deciding what legislative policy to advocate for or against in certain cases. So that's really the only difference, but we do welcome all veterans. You can become an annual member. You can become a lifetime member. I don't have it up here with me. Actually, I think it's right here next to me, but I have a card. I can show you what the lifetime member card looks like. Actually,
absolutely.
I just got this in the mail. So that's what the, let me see if I can get it in there to where it's not blurry. There we go. So
nice.
Lifetime member, right? So it's aluminum. You get a nice letter with it. So those are just, and as we build this, we're starting to build in more perks depending on what membership level you are. In Discord, you get certain access based on what membership level you're at. And then so we're starting to really, I guess, structure this very, very well. But that's the link. You can donate. So for folks who, may not want to become a member, but really want to support what we're doing, there is a donate button at the bottom. People can get involved that way. And then we also have merchandise, t-shirts, hats. Brandon and I were actually just having a conversation earlier today about getting some different merchandise out to folks to wear and everything. So we're trying to build this as much as we can, but all of us have day jobs. I'm a plant manager for a manufacturing company in South Carolina. Brandon is a lawyer. Matt's a lawyer. John, who has been a huge help, is I think is out there on the West Coast. He runs his own company called War. So he is very tied up and busy with that. But all of us really take a long time, take our time to make sure that we are sitting down, we're advocating, we're messaging each other back and forth on Discord to make sure we're still pulling in the right direction, and this message and this movement isn't forgotten about. So as my hope is that as we continue to get the word out there, we continue to spread the word, we can start to get more and more interest, and then really start to, topple that domino, so to speak, from, Malcolm Gladwell, the tipping point, and really start to build this into a very strong national organization that allows us all to advocate and have better transparency with the VA, so that there's not $383 billion just out there, or even in the Department of War's case, how many trillions have they found missing every audit that the Pentagon has, all of those things, right? So we're definitely not where we want to be, I will admit, but through the help of, coming on shows like yours, Joey, and talking with other veterans and kind of getting the message out there, I think we're getting more and more people who believe in what we're doing and are becoming a part of the cause.
Solid, man. Honestly, I couldn't agree with the mission more in message, because engaging and participating, I think people have a skewed perspective of it, right? When you apply for benefits, of course, it's going to be your learning curve, and we have to manage expectations. When you have a lobbying interest, when you want to do these things in this dynamic of governance, you have to understand it's slow going, but it doesn't take years for people to participate. Like you said, it's checking in, sending messages, communicating, being active, sharing the distribution of information. Like when that the axe came to fall on people who were taking their medicines as told, right? For following what you needed and doing what you need, which was horrifying. I've heard people saying, well, do I just stop taking my medicine then? And I'm like, well, no, I don't advise that. I would never advise that. But you might want to question how much longer you want to be baited by this carrot, that of which is claimed to be for you, medicine, and how much you're sticking your neck out to be cut off, because that's the operation. This is what Doug Collins is now known for and infamous within speaking circles, and it's his responsibility to fix it. I did hear also he's starting to fly private because he's so terrified of the veteran community. Very interesting. Kind of a dick move.
Just maybe not a good idea to upset the millions of men and women who you taught how to fight a counterinsurgency warfare for the last 20, 30 years, and then try to take away benefits that they have become accustomed to. It's probably just not a great idea, but I'm just throwing that out there.
It's not, I've had this conversation lots and lots of times where people go, why isn't the community doing something more physical? And I was like, well, because we're actually that well trained. Okay. I know it sounds like, oh, we're just assholes that we're going to burn the whole place down. I'm like, no, actually, that's what you don't want. In fact, if you can affect something without firing a single bullet, Sun Tzu, Art of War, whatever, you can then figure out what the motivations or motives that are accumulating towards this result, right? And I can't not hold people accountable. I reached out to the VOIG Inspector General. She's a sweetheart. I told her how amazing it was to say, hey, I'm so proud of what your office is doing, targeting and going after that $16 billion scheme. This guy was taking casino chips. This guy was getting Louis Vuitton fucking, what do they call those, voucher cards or whatever. And it was demanded by this individual. Okay. That type of culture, what are we talking about? What type of leadership are we talking about? Right. To be critical of it is the dynamic of which our community is saying, look, we can't let that shit slide no more, because if we do, we know nobody's going to say, oh, well, the benefit of the doubt, the guy with the honorable discharge after X amount of years, who followed all the regulation, who has all the records and is doing it all the way right, and has petitioned for all these benefits and applied for all this stuff. It's those people that we have to get back center focused. I've talked to a lot of veterans, Vietnam era veterans. I know gentlemen that have excruciatingly horrible disabilities that they never sought help for. And they're happy with whatever rating they can get, because it feels like a beaten, battered wife syndrome scenario when the VA finally gives you a little bit. They're like, well, you better be grateful for that. And I'm not the kind of guy where if you owe me $100, you pay me $1 and tell me I better be grateful. That sounds like a position of authority and a threat, because what are you going to do about it? Right? That's, to me, maybe I'm a simple-minded animal, but when you start taking things out of my mouth and saying, well, it's because I don't deserve it, or because of this, or prove that, or here's a political, bureaucratic process that is so profoundly difficult that I have admirals, lieutenant colonels, I have friends that have run capital investment companies. When they try to get what they've earned, they don't know how to figure it out. I'm like, wait a minute, like you've created a whole ass business in AI? Yeah. You can't figure it out? No, dog. Like, I don't understand it. We keep applying for it. This is the words that are within the CFR code. This is the words within this program's designation. This is the qualifications and standards. This is the quantification. And much like anything else in the military, when you give us boxes to fill, well, okay, I understand it. That is not how these programs are being managed or administered. And when you bring up VRNE, that was the program I was talking about today with the gentleman who's took 22 months, got dicked around. They never called him. They never sent any other formal notice of anything, and then said, well, I guess you don't want it. Go ahead and restart that 22-month waiting period. And I go, look, if this was the guy's last shot, all right, if this was the guy's, after this, I'm going to go blow my brains out in a VA waiting room or a VA parking lot, which is very much on a trend. Mm-hmm. I'm going, what are we doing? Because, Doug Collins wants to fly private. That's cool. Like, hey, but maybe you should be a little bit more prepared for the actuality. One of my favorite persons to bring up in this 5th generational warfare era is Boone Cutler. And Boone Cutler talked about this a lot in his show, The Tipping Point with Boone Cutler, back in the day when I helped him out with those radio things for a minute. And when you said that, the tipping point, I go, I think we're right at it, right? You guys are right there. You guys are pushing CVOA. And it's to the point where I see it routinely, right? If you guys are posting something, I'm like, man, they're really on target here. And another gentleman, he's just getting into social media and advocacy, right? And I had like a 2.5 hour conversation with him. I was like, dude, your targeting is getting a lot fucking precise. Like, this is where we need to look. It's in these outcomes. It's in these processes. It's talking to people like you and Matt and everybody at Combat Veterans of America. And it's engaging. Get a membership. How much is a membership?
Annual membership's $50.
$50. 50. What? How much is a lifetime membership?
500.
500. Dude, I'm not going to put myself out there too much, but I've paid for memberships way more for that per year. Okay. Oh, yeah. And I'm just saying, like, hey, if we could get this thing dialed in and have these districts and these regions and these posts where people are engaging. And if you are a combat veteran listening or not, if you're just a family member of, I'm not saying just, but if you're a family member of a combat veteran, right? Yeah, we're not minimizing anybody else's existence, but this is where I think we have to come to a resonant level of communication. I was just telling my wife about it. I'm going to tell you exactly what I said to her. I said, I don't know how to talk to you, Heidi, anymore, even though she's been my caregiver for 16 plus years or whatever it was that we've actually been recognized as 13. But even since we got married, she's been taking care of me because I hide the problem, right? I don't know how to communicate the horrors of war. I don't know how to communicate the horrors of guilt or shame, or am I a good person? Were we the good people? Are we the bad people? Like all of this, are we the Nazis in this? I don't know. Society and history gets to tell us, and they treat us exactly like that. We get to tell you what you did. And so I told my wife, I don't know how to communicate with people that I look at babies and I look at children and all the horrors that are going on politically. I don't know how people stomach it, because I'm so shocked that the very people that are charged with guiding and protecting the veterans in the community are causing these situations to repeat itself. And I don't know how to say. Nobody wants to see a baby riddled with bullets. Nobody wants to see a little child parted out or eviscerated bowels. And I don't talk like this. I don't talk like this very much. I don't. I can't. And then I have to be funny because it's such a horror show that it might as well be something that's at least watchable, like Chucky, right? And it's a horror show and it's disgusting. And when the Chucky cut the ankle, the Achilles tendon, man, I still worry about that. And every time my legs come down off of a stick, hanging off the bed, I'm like, and it's okay, right? It's okay to get us scared. It's okay to stand up, and it's okay to advocate for our community as a whole, because that's what it's going to take. And you don't have to share. I'm not saying share the shit that I just shared about babies and shit, guys, because most people, they can't. It's overwhelming, right? They can't. Most of the times I tell people what just happened to me by why I got banned. Okay. I tell them, yeah, the VA banned me in January for something I said on a phone call in December. And now I have to go, check in with the police and be escorted with gunmen everywhere I go to and from. And I'm like, yeah, it's totally cool, bro. Totally the best feeling in the world. I also have a parent that, served in corrections for 19, 20 years at like max prison, right? And one of the nights we did a family thing and we went in there and it would be the same treatment. Okay. I say this because I always tell people I'll never say or do anything that gets my ass in jail or prison or institutionalized. I've worked in institutions. I've been on that security ward. No, I'll just catatonic. I'm not talking no more. Okay. But it's that horror that people have to hear in order to get their benefits. It's a disgusting display of, I want to say, drama porn or gore porn, where, these doctors, they hear it every day. So you have to stand out. It's like doing an audition for acting. You have to stand out. You have to be this, you have to do that. And this is where coaching does get it wrong. I go, wouldn't it be better if you just told them the truth and they believed you because you have an honorable discharge? That you've spent 36 years, this gentleman I was just talking to this morning, 36 years serving this country. And they're resetting your VRNE program, 22 months. It's always this. There's been bonuses out of Arizona. They lied about wait times. It's been suicides, but yet they're marking it as accidental overdoses. We're talking about numbers in the 80s per day. Okay, it's not a soft subject, but that's the reason why I get so impassioned and empowered by our conversations like this, Cory, because when I was out there by myself, right, I didn't have an organization. I didn't have the CVOA, right? I didn't know how to articulate things in a parameter where judges will be like, oh, no, he's okay. He's just really fucked up, right? So quit poking the bear. You know what I mean? And so I'm so jazzed because I really can't wait to see, CVOA having a post or a chapter possibly out here in Valley Center. I know a lot of different people that would love that. There's actually tons of us that live out here, a bunch of amputees and broke dicks like myself. And it's just great out here in San Diego. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Every day is a blessed day. And I love the fact that we get to meet and talk like this. I know it's been so many months, but I've been wanting to talk about this because I'm glad that I did take a while, because if we would have talked right when I got banned, which I think our show was like right around it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my dude, you'd have been like, hey, Joey, yeah, stop saying the fuck word. And you my wife tells me it all the time because I'll go on and the whole first name, last name, middle name. As soon as she says that, I'm cooked. And she's Mexican. So it comes out, Jose Ricardo Martinez.
You're in trouble.
Oh, yeah. It's a hot relationship. Spicy. We actually just celebrated our 16-year anniversary and yesterday, in fact. And
congratulations.
This morning, thank you so much. Thank you so much, because without her, I know I wouldn't be alive. One, because she stopped me from a suicide attempt just this past year, about 3 times. back in the day, she literally pulled the rope on and all the bullshit, because not to be dramatic or grotesque, but this is the world we live in, where if we don't have hope, if we don't have dignity, veterans aren't going to be able to communicate. That's where we shut down. And if there's no meritocracy or recognition or validation to what we're doing or why, this is why I get so impassioned. We have a great show coming up with Steve Schwab, Elizabeth Dole Foundation CEO coming up. Another one of those trying to, hit and miss with the schedulings. And I'm like, you know what though? But the work they do and in the mission that they do, it's right there with you guys, right within that field of somebody's, the things that nobody's talking about, nobody's going after, nobody's really highlighting or illuminating. And for yourselves at CVOA, I just can't be more enthused to connect these dots, regionally, having more podcasts with you guys, having on anybody from you guys, anybody, whatever. We'll talk for hours and hours and hours. But that's the reason why I'm so happy, because if it wasn't for my wife, we wouldn't have done this today as well. I was having a bad day this morning. And it comes from that realization that me and her have been married for 16 years. And of those years, 13 of them, she's been my caregiver in ways that no man should have to articulate every 6 months to another person that has the availability of their records. Okay. This is trauma-informed care. We gush about it in all these different nonprofits, veteran service organizations. We offer trauma-informed care, this bullshit, that bullshit, whatever. You guys know, hey, CVOA, man, we're combat veterans. All right. It's okay, man. Fucking say it. I understand it was hard. Don't say it again. Now, me and you and them will fucking work towards the goal. And you don't have to relive your trauma just because somebody is a dickhead, because that's what these programs are really doing. They're whittling people's integrity and dignity down to the point where they're begging, they're supplicating. And then sadly enough, we're having an outrageous outpour of suicide. And the administration's shocked. They're like, wow, we've been spending $17 billion on mental health every year. We don't know what's going on. Well, I can tell you, those bonuses are being manipulated by the very administration that are in these talk shows and in these places, not, inviting people like yourself. I'm going to be sending everybody, hey, Barry, you should talk to this guy. Barry Katz, great guy, very motivated about helping the veteran community. Hey, anything that we can do, Cory, I'm just so jazzed that we were able to knock this out. Any other promotions, anything's coming out with CVOA or shout outs?
Yes, a few things. And one thing I want to highlight about the posts in general with CVOA, the vision, and kind of the reason why this is taking a little longer to get going than, what we would like is the American Legions, the VFWs, they very much resemble like a moose lodge. You have a gathering center, you have a bar type deal, right? I mean, great places to hang out, have a beer, have a drink, conversate. Brandon and I, and with the help of the other veterans, we wanted to build something different. We wanted to build an actual vet center, so to speak. So the CVOA post in our vision, right? We don't have one built yet. I just want to clarify that because we've posted up there like this is kind of the future of what we're looking like, and we've gotten a little flack for that. So I just want to be very clear. There's not one built yet, but it will include, your regular things like the bar and the gathering center, right? But on top of that, we also want to put in classrooms. So if a veteran wants to take some additional classes, they have a space to do that. They don't have to worry about the library closing or making the class or whatever the case may be. They have a spot. They can come and do that. Like I said, we'll have an office for a veteran service officer there to come by and talk to help you with navigating those benefits and working through that. Community kitchen. So if you want to have, a family meal, so to speak, that's an option for you. But the biggest thing and the one that I'm most proud of is we're actually planning on offering a homeless center in these posts. So, and if you don't have a place to go and because your benefits have been, pulled out from underneath of you for whatever reason, life happens. We get that. It's a dormitory style with showers and a place to sleep for the night. That I think is what really sets us apart because it's not so much just a gathering place for us to swap stories and bullshit. It's a place where you can do your education. You have a safe space to sleep at night. You have a place for somebody to advocate for your benefits, and you have a place to sit with a community of like-minded folks to shoot the shit if you want to. So it's not so much just a hangout spot. It is very much an all-encompassing. This is how we come together in the veteran community and make and have a holistic approach to supporting a veteran. And I think that's what really sets us apart as we look down the road going forward. The second thing, one thing that I do want to highlight, and it's slowly coming to fruition, but we are planning on having a Veterans Leadership Conference in Indianapolis in the fall. I've been fortunate enough to make some contacts with a group called Focus 3, who have two. So I met Dave and Derek through my job at a senior leadership conference down in Charleston, South Carolina, just a few weeks back. And they mentioned they had 2 Navy SEALs on their team. So I reached out. Tony and Andy work for Focus 3. They got out of Tony just got out. He was a SEAL reservist, and then Andy got out in 2014, about the same time I did. So working with them, they have this mantra called E+R=O. So you can't control your events, but you can control your response, and how you respond to an event equals the outcome. So you can either have a disciplined approach and a disciplined response, or you can have an undisciplined response, and those responses is what's going to affect the outcome. They have graciously offered to host the keynote for that and work through a workshop for veterans. So veterans come in, they teach them how to do these things. I've been out for over a decade now, and learning that mantra, so to speak, that discipline, was new to me. I never heard that before, but it was something that I really wish, as a newly civilian, somebody would have set me down and walked through with me. So whenever I went through this in my job, and then learning about it with Andy and Tony, I was blown away, and I was like, I think this would be a great thing that could benefit all veterans, whether you're day one out of taking your uniform off, or you're 20 years down the line after being out of the service. These are techniques that can really help you succeed as you are navigating this whole new lifestyle, so to speak. And that's one big thing we've been posting about on LinkedIn is when you take the uniform off and you leave the service, you're not leaving a job. It's not like I quit a job and I went to another job. You are literally changing an entire lifestyle. The military is all encompassing, a cult, so to speak. Everybody wears the same uniform. We all speak the same language. And when you're deployed, you all eat the same food. Like it's very much, cultish in a positive way, but it still is. And but when you leave that security, you leave that, you leave those friendships, and that's the hardest part, and that's been my hardest part coming out in the civilian world, is those making those connections, because it's so easy in the military. Everybody has that shared experience, but when you step outside, you don't have those. Trying to make those connections on a whole different plane is very difficult. So those are that leadership conference will be sometime this fall. We're targeting late September, early October timeframe. It will be in Indianapolis. Simply a couple of reasons. We are planning on starting our first post in Terre Haute, Indiana. That's where Brandon is located. And I went to school at IU, so go Hoosiers. National champions this year. And also because Focus 3 is based out of Columbus, Ohio, so it's a very quick drive for them over to Indianapolis. And the final kind of thought process is, if you guys don't know, Hotel Tango Distillery, which I'm not being paid, I'm not a paid sponsor, I'm just a huge fan, it was the first disabled-owned veteran distillery in America. Hotel Tango is the initials for Travis and his wife. And he's First Recon Marine. So great guys, great group of folks. I know when I lived in Indianapolis, I loved going there. They did a lot of great work with some of the veterans organizations. If you go on their website, you'll see all the different donations and stuff they do with in partnership with the American Legion and LGBTQ plus veterans and things of that nature. So phenomenal organization. I'm trying to, I sent them a message to see if they would allow us to use their event space for this. So it's coming to fruition. Hopefully, Joey, in the next, when we talk again, I'll be able to give a lot more detail and everything. But this literally just came to mind a couple of weeks ago, but it's moving very, very quickly. Very excited about what this is going to mean and not just for CVOA and Focus 3, but just as a veteran community coming together, networking and getting and just being able to swap stories for a weekend.